In this lesson, we will introduce literal equations. Literal equations will become extremely useful in the next few weeks when we start putting equations into slope-intercept form. However, today will just be an introduction lesson. The target for this lesson is that you will be able to solve literal equations. So what exactly is a literal equation? A literal equation is an equation that consists primarily of variables. Formulas are a great example of literal equations. So on your screen, you see 5 literal equations. They should look familiar because you have used all of them before in math class. The first one says distance equals rate times time. The second one says area equals length times width. The third one says volume equals length times width times height. The fourth one says perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And the final one says circumference equals pi times diameter. Now, depending on what information you're given in a problem, you can choose to leave the formula as is, or you may want to rearrange it. Rearranging it is useful to solve for another variable. So for example, if you're using the area formula, area equals length times width, it's super easy if you're given the length and you're given the width and you're asked to find area. However, if you're given the area and given the length, you will want to rearrange that equation so that way you can solve for the width. All right, literal equations level 1. I call these level 1 because they're the easiest. They each only require one step. So problem 1. This equation says u equals x plus k, and we are asked to rearrange it so that way it is solved for x. Now we're going to find our equal sign, draw the line straight down the middle. In the past, I've always told you to box off the variable because there was only one variable in the equation. Now we have 3. We always want to box off the variable that we are solving for. And in this problem, we were asked to solve for x. So therefore, I'm going to go to my equation and box off the x. Then I just use the same solving skills that we've been using since last year. Outside of the box, I see plus k. I need to use inverse operations to move that to the other side of the equation. So the opposite of plus k is to subtract k. And anything I do to one side of the equation, I have to also do to the other side. Positive k and negative k are opposites. They cancel. So I'm going to cross this off. I'm going to drop down the x equals. On the other side of the equation, I have u minus k. Those are not like terms, so I cannot combine u and k. So instead, I'm just going to write them in the order that I see that. So literally, u minus k. So now this is the same exact equation that I started with. The only difference is instead of starting with u equals, this equation now starts with x equals. Let's try one together. Problem number 2. This equation says u equals a minus k, and we are asked to solve the equation for a. Which variable in the equation should I box off? I want to box off the a. Remember, always box off the variable that you are solving for, and we were asked to solve for a. Outside of the box, I see a negative k. How do I move negative k to the other side of the equation? Make it a positive, so we are going to add k to both sides. Negative k and positive k cancel because they are opposites, so I'm going to scratch those off. I'm going to drop down a equals. On the left-hand side, I have u plus k. I cannot combine those, so I just write them in the order that I see them. U plus k. And now that is the same equation as what I started with, except it is solved for A. Problem 3. This one says U equals X times K. Remember, anytime that you have two variables right next to each other, it's implied that they're being multiplied together. So I'm going to draw my line down the middle. I'm asked this time to solve the equation for X. I'm going to box off the X. Outside of the box, I have a K. And remember that K is being multiplied. So I need to use inverse operations to undo times K. The opposite of multiplying by K is to divide by K. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by K. That'll make these K's cancel out, so I'm going to scratch those off. I'm going to drop down the X equals. On the left-hand side, I cannot divide U divided by K. I don't know what those numbers are. So I'm just going to leave it exactly how I say it. U divided by K. And that's the third equation, now solved for X. One more problem, and we're going to make it a U-try problem. So find the equal sign, draw the line. This problem says G equals X divided by C. Which variable in the equation should I box off? I need to box off the X. Again, you always want to box off the variable that you are asked to solve for. Outside of the box, I see divide by C. How do I undo dividing by C? I multiply. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by C. When we do that, my C's will cancel and I drop down the X equals. On the right, or on the left, excuse me, I have C times G. They cannot be combined, so I'm just going to write CG. Or you could keep that dot there and say C times G is equal to X. Either answer would be acceptable. So those are your level 1 literal equations. They were each one step, but it's all the same solving steps that you have seen before in the past.